Yu-Gi-Oh! In a literal sense means king of games, but it also means a lot more to me as well. Ever since I was a kid, I loved cartoons. I woke up every Saturday morning early enough to catch reruns of American cartoons. I stayed up late enough to catch some of the funniest and rudest cartoons, and I even tried on occasion to draw my own cartoons. But I'd never seen anything like Yu-Gi-Oh! In my life up to that point. I'd never heard of the concept of anime, and to a 7-year-old kid, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was just a unique looking cartoon. Little did I know what crazy of a ride I was in for with this show. Sometime earlier, I had of course heard of the card game. Everyone in my school played them, and I would stand over my friends' shoulders watching them play this game, where each monster had its own unique design and unique purpose. I really wanted some Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards of my own, so my mother bought me some after I asked so many times because I never really asked for anything outside of my birthday. It was at this time that I got my first starter deck. Starter Deck Yugi. I didn't even know who Yugi was, but seeing him on the front of this pack made me think he was important. And of course he was. I am at a point of almost 20 years of loving Yu-Gi-Oh! Through playing the game, trading the cards, discussing them with friends, going to tournaments on occasion, and now watching other YouTubers share their love for Yu-Gi-Oh! But nothing is bigger in my personal fandom of Yu-Gi-Oh! Than my love for the thing that gave these cards even more meaning and gave them a weightful purpose, and that is the anime. I want to take a long trip through the entire show of Yu-Gi-Oh! All 5 seasons, every episode analyzing and reviewing each heart-filled, crazy, action-packed, spooky and emotional episode. I want to focus on the characters' story arcs, their moments of growth and their feelings, and that might be a little bit silly for a show about a children's card game, but it's a lot more than that to me. This show means the world to me, and going through the journey with these characters once again would honestly be one of my favorite things in the world to do. Today we're looking at episode 1, the beginning of the series, and what would lay the groundwork for the story that each character would continue to move through. While it can get rough, it still has some classic moments with fantastic visuals and some amazing over-the-top and badass moments. This is reviewing every single Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode. We open on Joey and Yugi playing Duel Monsters with Taya and Tristan watching over them. Joey is clearly less than a beginner here, but he shows a childlike interest in playing the card game. There is a spark that really makes him likable and you instantly take notice of it. Honestly, I would not be surprised if Duel Monsters for Joey started because of his admiration for Yugi and wanting to hang out with him more. It's a very adorable scene. You quickly get a sense of the friendship between everyone here. But before we go any further, let's quickly explain who these people are for those who may not know. Yugi is a small teenage boy with a love for Duel Monsters. He lives with his grandpa and has gotten a lot of his good and honest values from him. Joey Wheeler, Yugi's best friend, is a knucklehead with an open and honest nature to him. He is very insecure and expresses it through overconfidence. His love for good people and defending good people knows no end. Taya Gardner is usually the voice of reason when she can be. She values friendship above all else and would rip someone's eyes out for insulting her friends, especially when her friends are down. Tristan Taylor. If Joey is a knucklehead, Tristan is less of a knucklehead, but still a knucklehead. He jumps head on into most situations but has the spirit to get out of most of those situations by the skin of his teeth. The type of friend who would punch a dragon if it looked crooked at you. One of the show's anti-heroes, Seto Kaiba, sits just near them, overhearing Yugi talk about his grandpa's rare card in his shop. This intrigues Kaiba. Clearly, he wants this card. They make Kaiba look so evil here, but in fairness, in this episode, in this moment, he kind of is. Kaiba has sinister intentions, and while we will get into more as to why that is no longer the case later on here, the depiction here is totally fair. Yugi and his friends go to his grandfather's game shop. Grandpa Moto is a kind old man who may be too sentimental for his own good, and he runs a really cool game shop. They ask about the rare card and Joey is showing a big interest in it. It's really cute to be honest. His own personality mixed with his new interest in Duel Monsters is really awesome to see. And you better be a Joey fan by the way because I will continue to find him adorable. We gotta deal with this, okay? Grandpa Moto eventually gives in and lets them see the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Possibly the most iconic card in the game still to this day. They're still making deck archetypes about it and still releasing cards related to the Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Awesome! Doesn't look all that special to me.
People who don't even play this game know about this card.
Speaking of priceless, I'm ready to trade.
And almost like fate, Kaiba barges in the door a character that will be entwined to this card forever. Demanding that rare card, Kaiba is turned down by Grandpa twice, even with the offer of a chest full of cards that at the time in this show could be considered pretty good. It impresses everyone in the room. This is who Kaiba is, and in one scene, we understand that. And it's something that is hard for him to ever shake. He values power, money, and material wealth. He can't fathom the sentimentality of a card that Grandpa has. He leaves in a scuffle, vowing to get that Blue Eyes White Dragon one way or another. The next day, Kaiba's goons show up at the game shop with more sinister intentions. These guys look like textbook bad guys. The short bald guy with the misshapen head flanked by two big dudes with flat tops. Great job. A kid could look at the show right away and know that these guys are bad news and are not to be trusted. It's very simple and it just gets the point across right away. We don't usually see these guys again, but honestly, it just works. The goons want him to duel Kaiba, and Grandpa thinks this could be a good idea to teach Kaiba about the heart of the cards. Good luck with that one. Seriously, good luck. Yugioh and his friends show up once again at the card shop. It must be a delivery day as they're expecting newer cards. New card day at local game shops is an exciting day after all. You just have to get there quick before everything is gone. In this world, however, it's a little different. While a small card shop will be crowded over here, Duel Monsters is massive in this world. You could probably buy cards in like a local pharmacy in this world. They find that nobody is home and quickly get a call from Kaiba telling Yugi to come to Kaiba Corp Towers to pick up his grandpa. Kaiba's eyes are so lifeless here. It could just be an early design choice, but I like to think that it was intentional. Kaiba is on autopilot here, drunk with power and forgetful of his past and who he was and truly is. This is where Kaiba is at his peak evil. Even if he is still mean for the rest of the series, his eyes right now truly reflect who he is at this moment. Yugi makes it to Kaiba Corp Towers with his friends following after, and when he gets to the dueling arena, he finds his grandpa curled up on the ground in pain and in need of medical attention. I get the old joke, how did a card game make him feel this bad? But my perspective has always been this. This is the first time a 72-year-old has seen Duel Monsters played with holograms. For years he has played this game and has never seen a real life-size Duel Monster. Honestly, this would make me have a heart attack. This would make me collapse, especially at his old age. And if Grandpa Moto didn't warn Yugi about Blue Eyes, I have to assume he used Judge Man or Battle Ox or something along those lines to attack him for the final blow. Something powerful but scary. It would honestly make anyone weak to see that. Kaiba reveals he has the Blue Eyes White Dragon from Grandpa Moto, and he rips it up right in front of everybody. This was a shocking moment. Everyone in the room was stunned. I was stunned. You ripped up a card with 3,000 attack.
Grandpa's most treasured card!
I would have ran over with tape so fast. Honestly, no shame. Kaiba does not want the Blue Eyes to be used against him, and again, the way they depict him here is at his peak of how evil he can be. Even the lighting puts him in shadow, resting against the light. It's really pretty, but also really telling of what they're trying to do here with this character. Grandpa gives Yugi his deck in order to beat Kaiba and teach him a lesson. This deck would eventually become Yugi's main deck, that he would add to and take away from as time goes on. But a lot of the staples he uses here will be staples for the rest of the series. The duel may be on, but Grandpa needs medical attention. Joey, Taya, and Tristan will take him to the hospital, but before that, Taya offers to draw a symbol across everyone's hand so they can remember the bond they have as friends, even if they're far apart. You might see this as cheesy, and it is, but this always makes me feel very emotional. The bond these four characters have is unbreakable, and it really is strengthened as we go along in the series. Here, Taya shows why she is the emotional backbone of the show and of this group, always supporting her friends in minor ways that she can. A duel is set. Kaiba versus Yugi 1. If you are a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, the words Kaiba and Yugi and duel in the same sentence is the most hype thing in the world. It's the one match that never disappoints and always gets me excited. They duel on this holographic stage. It's pretty huge, and like I said before, it can show real images of real monsters, and this is something that will be happening through the entire first season of this game. They will use these stages as the grounds for most of their duels. This is also where Yugi changes for the first time. He becomes adult Yugi, and there's way more on this as the series goes on. I mean way more. Way more. He becomes a different person as he duels. More confidence, more posture, better strategy, and he just looks way cooler in a lot of ways. Kaiba, however, is undefeated, and he is the best duelist in many people's eyes in the world. So his confidence is not unfounded. It's not baseless pride. He knows how good he is, and we should know too. The duel begins, and Kaiba summons a Hidatsumi giant, with Yugi countering with the Wind Dragon, Guardian of the Fortress, blasting Kaiba's monster away and taking a piece of his life points with it.
Monsters? Real monsters?
Kaiba feels the heat from this, which makes me think that these holograms are programmed to be so lifelike that they generate force from their attacks. Later in the series, we would also see that they would program smell into these holograms as well. I'm not joking about this at all, it does make sense why people would feel the force from these cards. We get our first appearance from Mokuba, Kaiba's brother, who shows genuine concern for Kaiba. Here we see the start of a seed for growth and change, or at least a show telling us that somebody cares about Kaiba, which will be a great message for the rest of the show. For everybody. Not just the good guys, but the bad guys too. Somebody will always care about you. The duel is very back and forth, with Yugi drawing these weird cards with limbs printed on them. He does not totally understand what they are, but Kaiba soon will. Yugi summons Gaia the Fierce Knight with the destructive power of 2300.
Gaia, the Fierce Knight, with a destructive power of 2300!
One of Yugi's staple cards, but Kaiba counters with the big reveal of the episode. Kaiba has a Blue Eyes White Dragon.
In your entire deck, there's not a single card that can stand up to a Blue Eyes White Dragon. So what hope do you have against two?
Oh no, he has two. The first summoning of the White Dragon is iconic, from the bright blue of its skin to the horrifying roar that it makes. I love it so much. Kaiba just looks right with these cards too. You can't have the Blue Eyes without Kaiba, they go together so well. Kaiba does summon two Blue Eyes in this duel in one turn, yes, and I do want to point out some rule breaking here or there, but even with cheating, this will not be enough for Kaiba. A lot of the rules that will be broken over this season, honestly, are pretty blatant and kind of crazy, but I do feel like the people that were making the anime were trying to make this as exciting as possible because they didn't feel like the actual rules of the card game were that exciting. And of course, we would see later on in the series and in other shows, they were pretty wrong because it can get exciting even within the rules. Yugi plays Swords of Revealing Light, which will stop Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragons from attacking for 3 turns. This turn shows the difference between Kaiba and Yugi here on a practical and on a spiritual level. Kaiba is about power and pushing through with force. Yugi is about laying framework for a defensive strategy that lets him come up with something good to use. These two are polar opposites, the perfect rivals, and you see it in their duels. I love this rivalry so much, and honestly, just kiss already. Yugi keeps drawing these weird limb cards and remembers what his grandpa told him about them. The unstoppable Exodia.
Exodia, but he can only be summoned by drawing all 5 special cards.
Exodia is a card where if you draw all 5 pieces, the duel ends. It's pretty cool if you can do it. Kaiba gets past the Swords of Revealing Light with the Judge Man, with the attack bar of 2200. With Yugi countering with the Dark Magician, the second most famous card after the Blue Eyes White Dragon. And again, it's a spellcaster. It can be seen as more thoughtful or a thoughtful type of card, and the Blue Eyes is all about power. This is Yugi versus Kaiba. This is Blue Eyes White Dragon versus Dark Magician. This is dragons versus spellcasters. It's awesome. Kaiba summons the 3rd Blue Eyes White Dragon, and this one is not held back by the Swords of Revealing Light, and he destroys the Dark Magician. Even though in the regular rules it would not be allowed, these are not exactly the regular rules of the game. The Swords of Revealing Light is one of my favorite cards ever, and in this duel and many duels after this, they use it as kind of like a ticking time bomb. You know that there's 3 turns that the player has to turn this duel around, and if they don't, they're gonna get destroyed. It always works to build up the tension in the show. With Kaiba ripping up the 4th Blue Eyes White Dragon, there is now only 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in the entire world, and Kaiba has all 3. Why did he rip up the 4th though? Well, it's very simple. In Yugioh, with most cards you can only run up to 3 versions of one card in each deck. This is to prevent a duelist from maybe showing up with 20 Man-Eater bugs and 20 negate attacks and just destroying the opponent. It just would not be fun. Kaiba ripped up the 4th since there are only 4 in the whole world. Now he's the only one who has the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's a shitty move, but he's smart. Let's not lie. Yugi struggles with his confidence in this duel. Drawing a card starts to feel strange for him, and his faith is a little shaken. He sees the symbol that Taya drew on his hand, and then he sees his friends, there in spirit, with their hands on his deck supporting him. If you hate sentimental themes, I can imagine you hating this, but for me, this is just so emotional. And seeing the symbol on his hand throughout the game was a nice touch. They never call attention to it till the end though. Then, we have one of the most famous and best exchanges between the two best boys of the series.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba. But it does contain the unstoppable Exodia.
Yugi assembles Exodia. It forms together in an epic way, making it seem like it's the biggest deal in the world. And it kind of is. Kaiba reacts like someone is about to kill him. And to him, they might as well be. He is about to lose his first duel. He is no longer undefeated. Exodia obliterates Kaiba. This moment is so important to me. In this moment you can see Kaiba break, and to me, it is the beginning of a new Kaiba. All of his strategies, all of his power, all of his grandstanding, stopped by Yugi and the faith that he has in his deck. A deck that he just beat one duel before. How do you come back from this? Being undefeated, being the best in the world, and then beaten so easily by an unknown player. This will begin Kaiba's vendetta to beat Yugi, but also begin to create a new duelist from the foundation of an old Kaiba. To build something back up, it is much better to break it down, so it can be built up even better, and that's what I see here. This is the beginning of Kaiba's journey, and it takes being obliterated to do it. Grandpa Moto wakes up just magically right away, and yeah, the show has magic. With what this show will become, I'm prepared to believe in an old man in the hospital waking up after his nephew wins a card game. Come on, like, that's the least of our worries here. This does not make Yugi the best player in the world because it is not an official game, but what it does do is establish Yugi as one to beat. He now has a target on him from all sides. The target is noticed by a strange man named Maximilian Pegasus, a man with a striking design covered in darkness. He is told, Seto Kaiba just lost. A sinister ends the episode. And that's where we'll leave the first episode of Yugioh. The first episode of Yugioh will always be iconic to me. It's an episode that sets up the entire series in one episode. The relationship between Yugi and his friends, Joey's love for duel monsters and willingness to learn, Kaiba and Yugi's rivalry, Kaiba's brother who cares about him a lot. We see staple cards in both Kaiba and Yugi's deck, and see how they play games so we can see how that changes as time goes on. We set up Pegasus as the main antagonist of the series also. What I see in this episode is a perfect foundation for what Yugioh will be. I can't wait to relive what these characters will go through, and see the journey that is set forth in front of them. Next, we'll be looking at episode 2, an episode that begins the true story of season 1 of Yugioh. Thanks for watching, and remember, we are Yu-Gi-Oh fans, and our decks have no pathetic cards. See ya!